So, Adobe has hit us once again with another update. This time, we're going to be talking about the Photoshop 2021 October release with more AI and more improvements to Photoshop. So let's start off with the very first feature, which is the sky replacement. This is the one that I found mind-blowing because of how good the results actually look. And for someone who uses Photoshop, you will know that it's not as simple as just a few clicks to replace the sky. You have to do a few steps before you can actually do it. Well, now you can do it in just 2 clicks or so. First of all you have to do is go to Edit, and then you go down to Sky Replacement, which is right there. And then this will automatically start to replace the sky. You have your gallery right here, so you can change the sky. If you wanted something blue, or if you wanted something more dramatic, for example, let's say something like this, you can change it in just seconds. We can go with this one or anything else. Now with this one, you have 4 main tools. The first one allows you to move around and change the position of the sky. So if you want to make it more higher or more lower, you can easily edit it in here. Now the next one is also another important tool, and this is the sky brush. The sky brush allows you to paint on a specific effect. So for example, if you wanted to, you can go up to the mode and then you can set it to screen. We're also going to change the opacity to 100% just for the example of this, so it's more visible. And then you can also go to the brush and then change the hardness right here and pick if you want it to be soft on the edge or if you want it to be more visible. So if you hold Alt, Option key, and then drag it out to make it a little bit larger. And once you've done that, you can then left click and start to paint it onto here. And as you can see, this basically adds on to the mountains by bringing the effect forward. But we're going to press Ctrl and Z to undo, and let's put it to, let's say 83 opacity, and then also put the hardness on 50. And then if you start to apply this, so as you can see, this basically gives it this effect of the mountain being a bit more blended into the background of the sky. We're going to also turn down the opacity just a little bit more and see what it looks like if we do it like this. Let's also put the softness a little bit more. And as you can see, you can just keep on re-editing. You can also choose subtract, and this will take it away from your image. You can start to rub it out. Now this one is very strong, so if you put it on 100%, it will pretty much remove the whole of the sky. And you could just keep on messing about with this and seeing what results are really good for you, see what works. The one problem with the sky replacement at the moment, there's no reset button. So if you wanted to reset it, you would have to cancel it and then reopen it. For the settings, you have Shift Edge. This pretty much allows you to either put it to -100, where it looks like this and is more further up, or you could give it a bit of a fade where you can see it more visible near the bottom. But we're gonna leave it on default, so we're gonna put it to 0. And of course, you've got the fade type as well. This is the one underneath it, so you can either have it on 0 or have it on 100. And you'll notice it gives it that fade right there. You've got yourself the brightness, so if you want to, you can make it really bright, or you can make it really dark, depending on your image and your scene. You also have the temperature, so you can have it really cold, or if you want it really warm, you can put it more to a yellow color. Next up, you have the scale, and this goes up to a really high number, so if you want to, you can have it on 100 or 400, which will zoom in to 400%. Or you can do the opposite and take it away and put it to 50, but that will make it more visible like this. So you can pretty much, let's put it to 190 or a little bit less. And then once again, we're going to use the first tool, and you can actually move around and adjust the position of it. You have flip as well. So if you want to, you can flip it vertically. Next up, you have the lighting mode, and this basically allows you to have either multiply or screen. You also have the lighting adjustments. So if you want to, you can put it really low or you can put it really high, depending on your image. You also have the color adjustment, and this will just slightly adjust the colors to match the sky. You also have the preview at the bottom, so if you want to toggle it off and on to see what it looks like, you could turn it off and on right at the bottom. And then finally, you have the output, so you could choose if you want a new layer or if you want a duplicated layer. And then if you press OK, this will apply it as a new layer. Moving on to the next big feature that has been added to Photoshop is the neural filters. This is something that is using, once again, the Adobe Sensei and using AI to generate the image to change the perspective or the look of someone. To get to it, it's really simple. You go to Filter and then you go down to Neural Filters, which is right at the top. The first one, you just click on the cloud and everything that you apply will appear right at the bottom here. So as you can see, these are the applied filters. So if we zoom in a little bit just to see, using the Alt or Option key, you can get yourself a blur. So you can either put it to 0 blur or you could put it to 100. If you go ahead and let's say apply some smoothness and then you click on this button right here, which is the preview, this is before and this is after, you can actually see the difference. If you want to, you can reset it with this button right here. This will pretty much reset it back to normal. We have the style transfer, and this is completely different to skin smooth. Now, when you turn it on, you'll get some crazy and really cool looking artwork that you can apply to your portrait pictures. At the moment, these are the ones available. You can click on show more if you want to expand. It is basically like the filter gallery, but with some crazy new style and effects that you can apply. At the bottom of this, you will have some options. So if you want to, you can either preserve the color or you can focus on the subject. You've got the strength right here, so you can make it less visible or you can make it really visible. You've got yourself the brush size, so the smaller, the more detail, and the bigger, the less detail. And then finally, if you want to, you can also blur the background as well. So you can take this one and this will make it so you focus on the person itself rather than the background as well. And you can increase the intensity of the blur or you can put it to something much lower. The same as last time, if you wanted to, you can reset it right here and this will put it back to normal, or you can just untick it and then that will remove the filter. Another cool thing about this filter and the feature, they've also included some of the beta filters. So if you wanted to, you can explore some of these and try them out, see what they look like. So we're going to turn this one on and test it out and see what it looks like. So straight away, we've got ourselves the expression. So if we want to, let's say we want him to be more happy. Wow, this is exactly what I mean. It looks incredible and realistic before, and then this is after. That is absolutely insane. We've got ourselves surprise as well. So if we turn this one on and let's put it to 17 again, it seemed to have worked quite well. If you wanted to, same as last time, you could preview it here. Right, so moving on to the next feature, this is the pattern preview, and this is another really cool one that has been added. And let's say you wanted to preview and see what this would look like before you actually make it a pattern. Well, if you go to View, you will now see right at the bottom, there is a pattern preview right here. And if you click on this, it will come up with this message and it will pretty much tell you that it's better off to have a smart object. And just make sure your layers are smart objects, but if not, then just click OK and that will still do it. And as you can see, it now has created this really big infinite pattern that you can preview and zoom out as much as you want to the point where they are just tiny dots. Now, if you want to zoom in and zoom out, you can use Alt and then scroll up or down and then zoom back in. So this is what the wallpaper would look like. Another great thing about this is that whatever you do right now, so let's say we want to change the scale of this, it will also apply it everywhere else. So you get to see it happen live while you're editing. So let's say we wanted to preview what it would look like flipped, upside down. You can apply it and then zoom out and see what it would look like as a pattern. And that is something really cool and handy, especially for creating patterns and making them look really good. Once you're happy with all your changes, you can then go back to view and then turn off the pattern preview. And we're going to also turn off the background. And if you wanted to save this as a pattern, you would go to edit and then go down to define pattern. And then you would give it a name and press OK. So then once you've done that, you can get yourself a new layer. And then in that layer, you would double click to get yourself the blending options. And then you go to pattern overlay and yours will be right at the bottom. It won't have a category. So if you put this to normal, this is the pattern which we created. And as you can see, we could change it with the scale. We can also change the effect. So if we wanted something like this, we can create a wallpaper in just seconds. Now the next feature isn't so big compared to the one before, but it still is really handy. So if you go down to the shape tool right here, right click on here, you will now notice there is a triangle tool. And compared to before where you would have to use a different shape and then change the sides to something much lower, you can now just get yourself directly a triangle. So if you hold shift and then drag it out to maintain the aspect ratio, you can get yourself a perfectly sided triangle. So the update pretty much gives you a new option to your transform controls, and that is this little icon right here, which is a circle. This allows you to change the shape edge. So if you want to, you can make it more rounded off, and you can do this live as it is. And you can keep on adjusting it to get what you prefer. This also applies to the other shapes as well. So if you get yourself a rectangle and you hold shift to maintain the aspect ratio, you've got yourself 4 points this time. And if you try to round off one edge, it will apply to all of them. So if you wanted to be more specific and only apply it to one corner, what you would do is you would hold Alt or Option key and then drag that specific corner. That is only rounded off that edge. And same as this one, we could do it to this one as well. And there you go. The next improvement is also with the shapes. And if you go to the line tool, which is right here, and you get yourself a line, you'll notice now it is more different. So compared to before, where it would actually create you a line, you now have a path. And this is a lot better because if you wanted to, you could change the fill right here. So let's give it like a blue. And then once you've selected the color, you can either have a stroke or you can have a fill. Now, if you get yourself a stroke as well, it would pretty much just apply another color on top of that one. But what you'll need to do is you'll need to go into the alignment and then change it to center, which is right here. And this will apply to both sides. But if you wanted it different, let's say you wanted it on the inside or on the outside, you would change it in here. And if you wanted to, you can also round off the edge by choosing this option here, or you can change it with some of these options right here. You also have the pathfinder right here. At the moment, it's not visible. So let's increase the size to something more visible. And as you can see, they're the two colors. We can make it more round or we can make it like this. It all depends on your preference. The next three tools are more experimental, so they've not been fully added into Photoshop. But if you wanted to preview them and have a look, see what they look like, you can enable them by going to Edit, go down to Preferences, and then go to Technology Previews. Once you open this up, you will get three tools which you can enable. The very first one is all to do with a frequently used toolbar. So if you're someone who works on a touch device like the Surface Pro, you can easily access the previously used tool. Next one is all to do with enlarging your image or making it smaller, but this time it will use AI technology to preserve the details and make it look more sharper than before. And the very last feature is the very new one, which is the content aware tracing tool. And this one allows you to get yourself a new pen tool which automatically detects the edge and starts to create the points for you. So the ones that we're going to enable is this one and then this one as well. And then in order for this to actually work, you need to press OK, and then you need to restart your Photoshop for the changes to apply. So then just restart Photoshop. We're going to start off with the very first one, which is preserve details. So to get to it, you would go to image, go to image size, and then in here you'll have the width and height. So let's say we're going to put this to 1000 to make it much larger. You can choose the other settings, and then in the resample, you click on this one, and then you will see the one that will say preserve details 2.0 version 2, which uses AI to generate and make the image larger, but also maintain the quality as well. So if you press OK, and as you can see, it's now larger and it has tried to keep the detail. The next tool is content aware tracing, and this is really interesting for what they are trying to bring into Photoshop. So if you go to the pen tool and you right click in the group, you'll notice there is now a content aware tracing tool. And the way that this works is very similar to the magnetic lasso tool, but instead of doing it per point, it will do it per chunks. So for example, if we start to hover over the object or the person we want to select, it will automatically start to detect the lines and the edges. Similar to the pen tool, you have your options right at the top here. So you have your new selection, you have add, subtract, you have tracing, detail, and auto trim, along with the align edges. So this is pretty basic. You have the create yourself a new selection. You can add onto the current selection, or you can take away some points from the lines. You also have tracing, and tracing is with detailed, normal, or simplified. If you put it on simplified, this will start to simplify the amount of lines which it will automatically detect. And if you put it on detailed, it will try to pick up more lines. Next to that, if you want to, you have the detail, and at the moment it is on 1%, but if you start to increase this slowly, you'll notice that more and more lines will automatically be picked up. And this can be great, but also a disadvantage at the same time, because if there is too many lines, then that's when it starts to become more difficult to get a specific line that you wanted to select. So for example, if you put it on 100%, it will pick up every single line that it automatically detects. Let's put it on 35. We're going to start at the top. So if you left click, when the line pops up, you will start to plot down all of these points right here. Same as this one right here. You can plot this one and it will do this bit right here. Now the one problem with this at the moment, and like I mentioned, it is very early on, so it's not going to be perfect. Sometimes it will go into the actual image itself. So it will start to follow a unwanted path. For example, this bit right here. Now we have some options. If we wanted to, we can remove it from the selection. So if you hold Alt or Option key, this will bring you a red cross, which you can then left click while holding Alt or Option key, and then this will take it away. Or if you wanted to, you can hold Shift and then left click onto the point to select it and then move it up to the actual place where it's supposed to be. We're going to do this bit right here. In this type of situation, what we can do is we can swap over to the plus, and then we could try to find the nearest line that it has detected. For example, this bit right here, and then that will add on to the line. And then we can add on one to here, and just keep on adjusting the lines. You can also skip ahead, and let's say, for example, you pick one up right here, you can connect it up to that one. Another thing as well, if you wanted to, you can turn on auto trim, and this will try to automatically start to close down the gap between the selection and the edge of the image. So we can continue on with this and keep on selecting the person. So far, it isn't doing too bad of a job until you get to here where it starts to throw itself off. So we're going to go back a step by pressing Ctrl and Z to undo. So if we hold Alt or Option key, and click on this one, it will delete that area. Down here is another area where it's going to struggle. So let's try to increase the detail a little bit more. And there we go. We now have more to work with. Let's put it to detailed and see if that helps. So that does actually help a little bit more. We can now continue on going around the path. Another little trick with this is if you hold Alt or Option key and then drag the left side of the mouse out, you can actually preview which line will be deleted. So as you can see, this one is the straight one, which we don't want, and this is the one that we do want. So you get to pick which side to actually delete. Once again, we're going to increase the detail, and hopefully this time it'll make it easier for us to continue the line. Or if we add one there, and then click on this one, move this one down. You can also right click on it and then add anchor point, and this will let you add on a new one. We're going to keep on going around, selecting as much as possible. And then finally, when you get to the very last one, you can connect it all up. We're going to remove this one and then connect it up to that one. Once you've gone back to the very last one, you can go to mask and then get yourself a mask, and there you go. You now have the person cut out. And then if you wanted to continue on, you can click on here, and this will also remove that area as well. And there we go. That is the cutout. Another really cool feature is the select and mask has now been updated. If you go to the second tool and you go to select and mask and get yourself in this window right here, and we also turn down the transparency to, let's say, 43. We're going to go to the object selection tool, and then we're going to select the head. The first new improvement is you'll now see a refine hair button right here. So if you zoom in a little bit more so we can see it better, if you click on the button that will say refine hair, it will start to refine the hair and make it look a lot better, saving you more time once again. To fix that, we're going to go to the brush tool, and then you can go on the plus, and then we're going to add on to this bit right here. Open up the refine mode. You'll now have a color aware and a object aware. So if you wanted to, you can either go with color aware or you can swap it over to a object aware. And then this message will come up. You go ahead and press OK. The next change is you can now reset a smart object back into its original form. If we unlock this to be a layer and then you want to right click on it, convert smart object, press Ctrl or Command and T, and then hold Ctrl or Command, and then let's say we're going to change the perspective of it, and then double click to apply it. All you have to do is go to the properties panel. Now if you don't have that one, you can go to window, go down to properties. You now have a reset button right here, so if you click this one, it'll reset it back to its original form. Moving on to the next change, this is the search for the gradients, the swatches, patterns, and much more. So if you click on the swatches, for example, you can now search for a specific one. So if you want something dark, you can search for dark. Or if you want a red gradient, you can see all the red gradients right here. Another improvement that has been added is the content aware. So now if you go to the object selection tool or any selection tool, and let's say we didn't want this garlic right here, we would select it, and then you can now right click on this one with a selection tool, and then you can go to content aware fill straight away. And if you click on this one, it will automatically open this window right here. And as you can see, it will remove it. But if you're happy with everything, you can then go to output 2, set it to a duplicated layer, and then press OK. And as you can see, it has now been removed. If you don't have time for watching tutorials or going online and searching for things, you can also press Ctrl or Command and F, or you can go to the icon right here, which is the new discovery panel. And this will pretty much allow you to search articles, guides, so much more, how to install plugins, stock, fonts, and yeah, you can get a lot of help from here if you prefer doing it yourself or by text.